Hi, I'm John Mayfield, the real estate tech guy with another Global Real Estate School podcast. Hey, welcome to the podcast. My name is John Mayfield, the real estate tech guy with Global Real Estate School, and I'm so excited that we have a new sponsor for Global Real Estate School, and it's USA Mortgage. I've known the folks at USA Mortgage for quite a while. By the way, I want to be sure and read their NMLS number is 227262, and they are an equal housing opportunity lender and all of that good stuff. But they're great folks to work with. And we have Megan Van De Boe with us today from South Dakota. Megan, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having us, John. We're excited to partner with you.
Yeah. So, you know, one of my goals is we have so many pre-licensed real estate school students, and we have a lot of agents who've had their license for a while. So I want the podcast to not only be able to help students get their real estate license and pass the exam, so we'll talk about questions in that regard, but also really just to help agents after they get their license kind of be prepared when they get out in the real world, because a lot of the agents, as I mentioned, are brand new agents. So I guess my first question to you, and that was always a challenge for me, Megan. I got my license when I was 18 years old in 1978. So back then we pre-qualified a lot of buyers ourselves. We just didn't have a lot of loan officers. Back then, a lot of people would just go to their local lender and get approved for a loan. But today it's a whole different process. But let's talk about getting pre-approved. Why is that helpful for you as a loan officer, or why would you encourage agents to have a buyer come and visit with you first?
That is a great question, John, because there is a huge difference in pre-qualification and pre-approval. That's probably something that is a knowledge that they need to know right now and make sure that they're explaining to their buyers. A pre-approval is when they go through the process of providing us all of the documents for all the little details. Bank, your taxes, everything in regarding to what is going to make this file tick, so that way we can close the loan. That way, all that's remaining is for them to find their dream home, get title work run the appraisal, and that way there's no big hiccups or scare at the end. So we do the annoying work on the front end. So it's a benefit for me as the loan officer, because I can find and all your dirt on the front end and have those
Right.
wonderful conversations to help and guide you. And then, of course, for you, you don't want to have a conversation 3 days before closing. Hey, we just found this because we didn't go through the pre-approval process and get you into underwriting right away. So it's a huge benefit for both of us to do that pre-approval on the front end.
It's a great point. And I remember in my own life, pre-qualifying people, which basically you look at their income and the proposed mortgage payment, and you're just running some numbers to say, yeah, you qualify for a loan. But then when you pull that credit report or you ask for tax returns, I remember a truck driver who said he made $60,000 a year. And when we sat down with the loan officer, and he brought his tax returns in, which is what you have to go off of, he only was making $6,000 a year. He was writing everything off because he was self-employed. And that was a real hard lesson for me, because I had shown them properties, written a contract, gone through counter offers. And by the way, for our viewers and listeners, this was before DocuSign and electronics, all of that. So I'm driving contracts back and forth, only to find out when he sat down to get approved for you, like you said, to go through all of that paperwork, he there was no way he qualified for a loan. So pre-approval versus pre-qualification, great points. And that even helps listing agents. When you list a property and an agent brings you an offer, and they say, well, they're pre-qualified, that's not necessarily a pre-approval, as Megan just said. So excellent point. What are other things that you see kind of, maybe not regularly, but at least notice that new agents should be aware of and watch out for?
Um, I would say there is something I've noticed with newer agents, and it's conversation of a pre-approval of an FHA loan versus a conventional loan. A lot of times they see that FHA as a bad loan, or it's not as strong as an offer, right? With that conventional,
Right.
because people's mindset go to that 20% down, higher credit, but the FHA is just as great. It's something where people can get their foot in the door. They're still having to have the assets. They still got to have the credit score, and they still got to go through the pre-approval. So I hear a lot of agents get really nervous and they're like, can we get a conventional? It's not the best situation for that buyer. And so we need to be on that buyer's side financially and not push them into a higher interest rate or a higher monthly payment, because the mortgage payment is going to change based off of, their credit score. So I think, seeing that FHA is still a strong offer as long as they are pre-approved, as we said, um, would be something I definitely would recommend for them to know.
And kind of on the FHA, which I totally agree with you, it's a great loan product. And talk about down payments and seller assistance. I mean, what sometimes I've been working with buyers, and a big problem in my area is buyers can often qualify for the payment. They just don't have the down payment. So talk about how FHA can help alleviate that need for a big down payment, and
Yeah.
some of the types of programs that you recommend for that. And I know you also said you like to do USDA loans. So whichever one of those you want to talk on would be
For
great.
sure. Okay. So when it comes to, of course, FHA, you have that minimum 3.5% down, which is really great, but you do want to always remember and consider that there are closing costs and prepaid items. A lot of times when I talk to people on the front end that have never gone through this process, they kind of lump together the down payment and the prepaids and the closing costs. So you have to make sure that you've got all of those ready to come to the closing table. And that's where a down payment assistance program would be a huge benefit for a first time home buyer or even a repeat home buyer. You just have to be within the debt to income limits. You have to be within a credit score. And it depends on also how many people are in your household. So there's just these different rules that you have to follow. In South Dakota specifically, there is South Dakota Grow. You can do South Dakota development. So there's different ones that you can look into, and also ones that aren't state specific too, if someone is looking to move outside of South Dakota. And regarding to, somebody who's maybe doesn't want to put anything down, and you're looking at a rural area, anything that's outside Sioux Falls, you've got Harrisburg, you got Brandon, those are all considered USDA approved. So you can do zero down payment, and then you're just worried about your closing costs and your prepaids. Now, another point that I think would be really important for people to know in this present market is that a lot of it, people weren't wanting to see a request for a seller credit. And that's where you can ask the seller to give you some funds to go towards closing costs or those prepaids, anything that are extra, when it comes to the closing table. But right now, houses are sitting just a little bit longer. So it's a conversation worth having with your buyer's agent, because it's going to help you bring less money to the table if you can't get approved for one of those down payment assistance programs. So there's nice little loopholes. You just got to make sure
Right.
that you're talking to the right agent, to help you get there.
That is a great point. And I try to encourage, because a lot of people who are going FHA or USDA are currently maybe in a rental situation. And so they've been getting outbid by cash buyers or some of these other transactions. And what I've tried to encourage buyers is that you have a really good card in your pocket, and that is, and by the way, always talk to your broker, sales manager before going into this. But I sold properties for years, Megan, where the seller always had 30 to 60 days possession after closing to get out. Now, you do have to have the right documentation to make sure all the insurance and liability. But if you're a renter and you have the opportunity to do perhaps a USDA loan, maybe allowing the seller a couple of weeks or 30 days after closing, that could be that really one negotiating benefit that may make your offer a little more attractive, even though you're going FHA or USDA. So yeah, you're right. Those can be still very beneficial programs, and um, networking with other agents, letting them get to know you and who you are, and that you're going to be easy to work with. And working with people like Megan and USA Mortgage really makes a huge difference, I think, when you start negotiating those contracts for your clients and customers. So now, one of the other things, and I love how you're talking about, the present market, which is so true. And I've had people say, gosh, John, interest rates are going up a little bit. Should I wait till they go back down? I sold real estate, as I've already mentioned, when interest rates were in the teens and as high as 20%. And I remember Megan refinancing a house for 12.5%. And I thought I was, had died and gone to heaven because I was getting a 12% mortgage on a refi. But really, a lot of people don't understand how an adjustable rate mortgage, can be a great product today. And our closing cost, I guess this is my question for you. Are closing costs less money for an adjustable rate mortgage? And what kind of difference in interest rate? I mention that because, and you can elaborate, sometimes people get a fixed rate mortgage and then they turn around and refinance their home in a year or sell it in 1 or 2 years. So what's your thoughts on getting an adjustable rate mortgage today versus that fixed rate mortgage?
It all has to do with what is your length of game plan for living in that home. And that's what our job is to find out right away, is how long can you see yourself in the property? And then I'm going to guide you, of course, to should we even look at an ARM? An ARM is something where I recommend anybody who's paying a little more attention, of course, and doesn't plan to maybe be in that property for very long, or they are comfortable with doing that refinance in the future, because we are seeing interest rates a little bit lower when it comes to an ARM. But it just all depends, on a lot of those different factors, of course, that go into getting an interest rate. And that's where, anybody who's paying attention online, they see the best interest rate of the day. And so when they call me, they're like, why can't I get that interest rate? Well, you got to go, you have your own bullet points to help you get there. So it
Right.
can be a benefit for some people, but right now, maybe not the long term, situation. You're going to want to come back and refinance once the market does make that shift back to where we would be happy to see it at, back in the fours. So it's just more of something that I see and recommend as a short-term play for anybody who's really trying to get into maybe that area for your debt to income ratio, because maybe you're going over a little bit and you have to be at a certain interest rate in order for you to get qualified, if that makes sense.
It does, totally does. And that's what I appreciate about USA Mortgage and Megan, loan officers like you, who that's your job. And one of my slides in my pre-licensed real estate course, when we talk about financing, is I tell the students, imagine going into an ice cream store and you look down and there's all of these flavors of ice cream. A lot, when you go to Megan, she actually has not just one or two loan products, but she's got a whole variety of loan products. Maybe a VA loan's your best route to go. And so it's her job, and I appreciate you mentioning that, to really take your information and then place you with the product that's going to be the best for you. And I know we could go on and talk on so many other items, Megan. I appreciate your time and I want to be respectful of your time. One last question I had though. We may have people watching, or perhaps you're a new agent or an existing agent, because I've been there and you forget a lot of times that there are people who are renting and they want to be a homeowner. They desperately want to be a homeowner. They just don't know where to start. One of the items, and this was probably 10 or 12 years ago, and I was at a meeting and USA Mortgage had one of their loan officers at our meeting that we were at that day. And what I appreciated so much about that loan officer from USA Mortgage is he said, you know, we have this product, and I don't know, maybe hopefully you still have it. I'm just curious, but he said, we have a product that we can take your credit score and look at your information, and then we can begin to kind of help you get on the right track and tell you what to do so you can become a homeowner. Can you elaborate on that, or what would
Yes.
you recommend to those people who want to become a homeowner, and how can they get help?
This is a really important topic because, like you said, a lot of people are really scared and just don't know where to start. Your best place to start is to go to a mortgage banker, go to a loan officer, and just fill out the application and just tell them your goals. And they're going to go through it with you. They're going to tell you this is how much you need to get in the bank to be able to get yourself into that maybe specific neighborhood of that specific price point that you're looking at. Oh, you've got this credit score. You don't make over the amount of income. So we can look at these down payment assistance programs. The guide is there for us. So all you have to do is just get started. It might not be that you can get into a home maybe in 3 months. It might be 6 months. It might be a year, but that's what we're here for. We have a credit specialist that is part of our team. So even if you have a low credit score, don't be afraid to reach out and say, where do I go? What do I do? How do I even get my credit up? Because
Exactly.
a lot of people are scared to open credit cards because they don't know how to actually utilize them to, getting them to a higher credit score. They've been told, no, 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 stay out of there. So it's just come to us for the education. Get started. Don't be scared to pull your credit. It doesn't hurt it as bad as people tell you it does. It's better off for you to just get started right away.
And actually, having a home loan, a real estate loan at some point is going to be a big benefit toward your credit score because they
Mhm.
look at the types of loans you have. And that's what Megan can help you out, or any of the loan officers at USA Mortgage. And I know the folks at USA Mortgage, they're good people. I was speaking yesterday at an event in Kansas City, Megan, for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. And one of the young men there got up, and he's probably 22 or 23. And I was so impressed with his story, but he talked about his mother had been taken advantage of through a home loan, through predatory lending. This was in Kansas City. And he said, it forced me. He said, I saw my mom and all of our stuff sitting on the sidewalk because we were forced out of our home. And he said, I wanted to learn about real estate and how I could help people avoid that situation. And when he said the words predatory lending, I thought, gosh, people don't realize, but there are people, unfortunately, that want to take advantage of you. And that's the reason I'm so excited to partner with USA Mortgage, is because they're a reputable company. I know so many of the loan officers in Missouri, and I can tell just visiting with Megan that she would do you a great job. So we'll have her contact information listed down below with her phone number. And you have information on your website too that they can go right on there, I'm sure, and just get started with a loan process.
Yes, you can find my contacts on Facebook. You can go to our USA page. So you can reach out to me any way that you like to communicate, and you can definitely find me.
Great. And you're in USA Mortgage, I think it's in 40 something, 47 states, are quite almost all 50 states. Do you just help people in South Dakota, or can you help people even virtually that might be in another state?
I am myself, I am licensed in Iowa, Missouri, and South Dakota. My team
Great.
is licensed all over the place. So even if I am not physically licensed, I've got partners that you can work
Exactly.
directly with me and also work directly with them. So you get a two-headed monster in that situation.
All right. Well, great. Well, Megan, thank you so much. You've been such a help. I've learned a lot today just visiting with you. And I know, I mean this sincerely, I would just be more, I would be at ease to have you help me with my home loan. So thank you so much for
Well,
your time. And
yes.
all right.
Thank you so much, John.
Well, thank you. And thanks for listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube. We will have, as I mentioned, more information on Megan listed down below, as well as USA Mortgage. Check them out. They're great folks. I've just know so many of them in Missouri. And I know Katie Otto is a good friend of mine. She always is a great help at our Missouri Realtor meetings. USA Mortgage always sponsors so many of our events. So you'll enjoy working with them. And thanks again for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening to the podcast for Global Real Estate School. I'm John Mayfield, the real estate tech guy. Go out and make it a great day.
Topics discussed on this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. Interest rates and products are subject to change without notice and may or may not be available at time of commitment or lock-in. DAS Acquisition Company LLC is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government entity or agency, including the USDA, HUD, or VA. DAS Acquisition Company LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS number 227262, Equal Housing Opportunity.